Hey YouTube friends and family, it's your girl Javina Love, back with the video. This has been a really rough time for me. First there was Corona, then now we have this movement of Black Lives Matter. But not to make it so big for you to kind of understand my fears and the jitterness in my voice, basically. I wanted to share a small history lesson, a backstory of why I have had a lot of fears and why I feel my life matters and my baby's lives matters just as well as your baby's lives matter, and why there's a time for everything and everything has its place. And right now it's not time for my neighbor to worry about his house being on fire. I'm burning in the inside of my house and I called 911 for help. So please let them help me, don't interrupt them, kind of thing, you know? A lot of people haven't been able to take that simple analogy and get that in their head of why Black Lives Matter. Think back to elementary school for one. What were your friends? Who were your friends? What color were your friends? I didn't have very many friends. And the ones that I did have, we were the misfits. Because we were mixed up race kids and we weren't accepted by the blacks or the whites or Hispanic or the Indian or the Asian. We were our own entity because of that. And so I grew up knowing that that's basically what my life was going to be like, you know, very Josephine Baker. My family is very Rainbow Coalition, very mixed, very vocal, very educated, you know, no different. I got college background, I've got degrees behind me, and none of that matters when someone looks at your skin. I put in resumes for really good jobs, and as long as they didn't see me, I would get the call back. And they'd do full phone interviews and go on and on and on and on how great I am and how great I'd be an associate or, you know, part of this brand. And as soon as I come in, dressed in my nine, you know, church hat ready, I'm sorry, you're a little overqualified for the position. So if you've seen me in lives or you know me on Instagram and Facebook, you've seen some of my family history pictures. And this is how I'm able to, I guess, I always make myself small. There's no reason for anybody else to put you down because we put ourselves down enough, right? So my small world, I'm going to start you way back to 1959 in Key West, Florida. My grandmother gave birth to my mother in 1959 in Key West, Florida, on the Navy base. She was in labor, but they took her to a civilian hospital because my grandfather was not home at the time. He was out, you know, serving. So why couldn't she go to the Navy base, you may ask? Why did she end up at a civilian hospital? Isn't that a part of the military right? To be on a Navy base and have your baby there and be taken care of there? Yes. But it was 1959. We didn't have a lot of rights. And that wasn't a part of the requirements for them to ensure health care to your family, only to the servants, not to your extended family. So my grandmother and my mother ended up at a civilian hospital. And if it wasn't for one nurse who my mother was named after, I wouldn't have my mother today. And I'm going to show you why. See this family portrait? That's my mother. That is her mother. These are her sisters, cousins, brothers. The nurse seen my mother and she said, she's beautiful. You're so lucky. But at that time, you can't just be walking around with a white child. In fact, my mother's not white. No, no, no. But she looks it. That's her in elementary school. So you couldn't do that. So the nurse brought my mother up, and my grandmother cried, and she smuggled her baby home. That's the only way she was going to get her home alive. Because if it was up to the hospital, they would have pulled her cord, they'd have let my grandmother bleed to death, and they both would have died. Jump to California, damn near 20 years later. 20 years later, California, I come along. And it was hard for my mother. High school, she was going to school, pregnant and all, with her sisters, and taking me, carting me back and forth. I walked the stage with her, you know, graduation, because she wasn't going to miss it. This is us. And I mean, you see nothing wrong with these things, right? You shouldn't. You just see smiles and pictures. But there weren't always smiles, because society did not approve of her having a colored child. Not at all. Did not approve of her getting jobs. If I would have came in the job, it just was, if it wasn't one thing, it was another, basically. And it was very hard. It was very hard. My grandmother would have to come and get me from school, because they just did not believe my mother was my mother. Even if I called her mama, they didn't believe it. Now, 30 years later, I'm repeating the same thing. I've got this movement. I've been afraid before this movement. I was afraid before this whole thing started with George Floyd. I was afraid when I was a child. I was afraid of what could happen because of the color of my skin. I've been in some serious bad shit that should have ruined me, should have drove me crazy. I should have lost my mind. But I had to be strong. I have 3 beautiful boys. One of them, my baby boy. It was the most trying pregnancy of my life, because it was very late in my age. I was 35 already. And we ended up with preeclampsia. The hospital where I did deliver him at, constantly, all the way up until the date of my delivery, was telling my family, we have to do something. She has a blood clot in her lung. She has blood clots in her blood. They showed that if it goes into a valve, she could die. She can have a heart attack, she can die. We need to terminate this pregnancy. No. Why? I'm already 7.5, almost 8 months. Why don't you just deliver the baby? Then we work on everything. I'm going to show you why. These are my boys. That is my baby boy. They wanted to terminate my pregnancy, saying that I had blood clots in my lungs because of the color of his skin. They can't tell me anything otherwise. Because why all of a sudden, once he was born, under literally the most distressful part of my life, I had to be completely knocked out for a C-section. Because I was so hysterical, and I kept begging them and pleading with them, don't kill my baby. Don't kill my baby. I would rather die than lose him. And they were like, no, don't worry, ma'am, you will come out of this, okay? No, that's a lie. That is a bald-faced lie. We didn't come out of it okay. Well, we came out of it okay. But we didn't come out of it like anybody else in a regular pregnancy situation. And I mean that. We were in intensive care for 2 weeks, separated on 2 different floors, separated in 2 different parts of the hospital. We never could be in the same room. I would listen to the women in the other rooms with their babies, and I would just bawl and cry. I didn't meet my baby for 12 hours after he was born. I didn't get to touch him, kiss him, hug him, nothing. And when I saw him for the first time, you guys, this is what I see. I see a bright light, and I mean so bright. It was so scary. And it was red, and it was green, and he was so swollen. The doctor was so proud, and I was so happy for him, and I was so happy for myself to have such a very concerned doctor, because he didn't stop. He didn't put me aside. He heard my concerns. He wanted me to be the most comfortable as he could make me and calm me down. He wanted me to really get to spend some time with my baby. So he wheeled me in my bed to the room to go see my baby, even though I couldn't pick him up. Because I just had a full saddle block C-section. I was just pretty much numb from the neck down. But the nurse put my arm over his incubator so I could touch his fingers and sing to him. And then they said I had to leave the room because they had other people in there and whatever. But it was intensive care. Of course, me being me, I didn't follow the rules. I got up 12 hours later, like I said, and I walked with the wheelchair that my neighbor had in her room next to me. I used that as my brace, and I stroll my butt up to the 3rd floor to go see my baby. I wanted to feed him. I wanted to touch him. I wanted to smell him. Because those are your rights, right? So many things that we take for granted. And so many things that we don't understand about other people. Maybe this will help you understand a little bit about me and why I'm so scared. Because he will never know, quote unquote, white privilege, because his father's side are immigrants. They're not white, quote unquote society. Yeah, they got their little money here and there, and they got their little stocks and bonds, but they're not financially able to rule the world, okay? They're not going to be able to make a big difference, just like I am not going to make a big difference. I am literally one teardrop in an ocean of tears. But I'm scared every day for my eldest son, for the children I adopted, for the children I foster cared, for the children that I birthed. I'm afraid every day for them, and have been. There has been no peace, and there will be no peace as long as there's no justice. If you're worried about a window being broken, if you're worried about a restaurant, if you're worried about a storefront, a few purses, a TV, you're not seeing the big fucking picture. All of these people, children that have died, will never come home to their mothers. They will never have another birthday. They will never. They will never. Okay? That's what Black Lives Matter means right now. And I'm not talking just about the one ripple of, of Black lives. I'm talking about the big ocean of us. There's the trans, there's the straight, there's the gay, there's the black, there's me. It all matters. But if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, damn it. Stop falling and worried about looting on freaking Black Friday, looting that happened in the streets today, social media, any other platform. Take a moment of your time. We've been locked up in our houses for damn near 6 months. And has anybody taken a small history lesson on their family and told them, this is where I came from, this is where I've been, this is where I plan on going? This was the hardest video that I've ever had to make, and I'm sorry I jumbled all over the place, but I wanted to show you, just show you why I am an angry black woman. Why I'm not the Tyler Perry cookie cutter woman. No. I'm not like Madea in so many ways. I don't carry a gun. I'm not loud. I'm not rowdy. I'm not wretched. I'm just here trying to exist. And if the only way that I will be famous is because my damn memorial or funeral will be televised, I would rather stay me, very meek and quiet. Because I can't afford a funeral. I can barely afford a birthday. But I will not be silenced. If you were able to sit through this, my thoughts and my concerns, thank you. I appreciate you, personally, you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the community and the people that I have bonded with online. I have never been an online entity until 2020. I was always scared. I was always scammed. I can't trust. But I want to thank you for taking a moment of your time to get to understand a small glimpse of why this movement is so important to you, not just to me. It's important to everybody. It is important to every fiber of our beings right now. It's so important. Don't forget to love your babies. Tell them you love them. Don't just glance at them, I love you. No, you tell them, I love you. You tell them that you're proud of them and that they're your hero. Because they've exceeded things that you haven't. Because one day you won't be able to. And I don't wish that on anybody. Nobody. To ever have to bury your baby before you. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's all I want to say. Thank you. Again, from the bottom of my heart.